sticky posted on there.
Oh, Ray made it. Hey,
Yep,
Ray.
he did. Yep, he did. Brad's going to be late, and Jerry Narsh isn't coming, Ken.
Okay, Mr. Hammond. Okay, well, we're going to start. We have a quorum by the looks of it, so we'll call this meeting of the Lake Orion Village Council order, and we'll do a roll call, please.
President Van Poortvliet,
Here.
President Pro Tem Matheson. Oh, I'm sorry, he's not here. Councilmember Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Hobbs.
Here.
Councilmember Narsh. Councilmember Randville.
Here.
Councilmember Rutt.
Here.
President Van Poortvliet, we have a quorum. President Pro Tem indicated he would be late, and Councilmember Narsh indicated he could not attend tonight and requested to be excused.
Okay. So the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget, and it really should say 2020-2021 budget. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. So we will start with public comment. Any public comment?
I have no public comments.
Okay. Item 5, items for consideration, goals and objectives for fiscal year 2020-2021. And we'll start with you, Mr. Young.
Yes, Council, in your packet on beginning on page 4, starts an update of the goals that I did from March. And what I'd like to suggest we do is we could go through each of them and see if we want to modify, delete, change, add any of those that we have. If that seems reasonable to try to accomplish today, that's all right. So,
Yep.
I would like to, I think that my guess is that there's going to be other council members that would say the same thing. These goals, some of them are done, need to go away.
yes,
We need to add new ones.
right.
So, and I even started with the vision statement, Joe.
Okay, sure.
The vision statement is 2019-2020, but I think it's even older than that, so that needs to be corrected. But as I read the vision, I was looking for different words besides in the third line. It says encouraging innovation and continuous improvement. And I don't know of any innovation that we encourage, but we're always doing continuous improvement.
Yes.
So I thought that they were redundant. And I thought that innovation might be changed with sustainability and innovative improvement. But that's kind of redundant too, because sustainability is all listed in through there. I thought Teresa will have something to add to that.
I don't know. I was wordsmithing a vision at this moment. So I'll be honest. I struggle with this vision statement because it's not easily repeatable.
Right.
Big long paragraph. Typically, a vision statement is something that I can clearly repeat to you. That's shorter and succinct. Where then the mission statement is a little bit broader. So I struggle with that as our vision, because if somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, hey, what's the vision of the Village of Lake Orion?" I cannot read that whole thing and spit it out to them.
Right.
So,
Right.
Well, when I talk to people at work and tell them I live in Lake Orion, they all say where living is a vacation. And they may live in Rochester or Clarkston or Lapeer, but they know that Lake Orion is where living is a vacation.
right,
So I mean, that may be a little shorter than you had in mind, Ken, but
Right.
I think that's what you're driving at.
that may be more of like a motto, but it is a vision too. That's the vision. Where living is a vacation. So something, it doesn't have to be quite that short, but something that's very easily repeatable, memorable, clear to people.
I thought that's what a township, I thought that was a township saying, because it's on their sign.
It is.
I know, but it's associated with us.
Yeah.
We've stolen it.
We're part of it.
So how about this? I'll just point out a couple of things I noticed, like in the objective, parks and recreation funding and grants. it says in there in the very last sentence of that paragraph, before the 2025 year expiration to be eligible for future grants. I'm not sure what that means. I think that that's done. My point of this whole mission, values, goals, and objectives is this a yearly thing. So anything that we were to do with it today can be changed in a year. And it can be shortened, but there's some things that no longer apply, like snow removal down in the promote efficient and effective municipal operations and services. I think that that's like the DDA's responsibility. Has been talked about a lot. They need to get off their duff and bring that forward. Because you're talking about snow removal downtown and the businesses. And quite possibly, I thought we might even include in this some type of COVID statement.
Mm-hmm.
But as I went through it, things like transition to cityhood, do we still want to do that? Street and parking lot improvement program, done. Bye-bye. Parking facilities, done. Bye-bye. Over on page 7, equipment replacement plan, done. Bye-bye. And things we might repopulate that with would be like salt building over at DPW, salt containment building. Continuing on, prepare sewer ordinance for property owners to be responsible for, done.
That one's done.
Bye-bye. Children's Park gazebo, done. That might be, I think we should get off that horse, and that might be repopulated with Atwater Park, bathrooms, something like that.
Yeah.
I also have one that's been talked about a few times through the years, is the finishing of the sidewalk on Washington Street on the west side.
Where is that?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked, they've been talking about that since Van Tassel, that I know.
Okay, so we could do a couple of different things here. We could start from the beginning and try to roll through these fairly quickly, or everybody could mark it up and shoot it to Joe and let him compile what might be changes. Which way?
I think that's a good idea, Ken. There's several things that kind of rub me on this, and we've talked about it before, especially related to the COVID issues, and it's anything where we are asking for more money from our constituents. To me, this is not a good time for that. People are struggling. There's job losses rippling through the community. I think there's more to come. We can either pass on the cost of the millage funds for the cemetery to people actually participating in, buying things in the cemetery or paying for things, or we can make do with what we have. I just think it's a bad time to be putting millages out there. I think the township's millage for fire and police is ill-timed at best. And I think we're going to get to budget conversations here in a few minutes. I think it's time for us to be prepared to reduce and not expand. We don't know what the future holds. We could have trouble with revenue.
Well, I agree. We couldn't overthink it as far as how bad it might be. I agree.
Well,
Joe.
One of the things I would like to get a consensus on is right now these goals and objectives are what me as manager are trying to implement. So if we could modify, delete, or change and add different ones, that would help me direct my time and energies and resources to the accomplishing these goals within the staff and money we have. So that's partly, if we could go through each one quickly, if that's possible. I mean, for example, the first one, the tower space rental, we're not, our tower is not the type they have anymore. If you noticed what the other cell towers look like, they are substantial, and not our little 12-inch diameter triangle antenna. So I'm not sure if that's a viable goal to have.
All right, we're going to roll through these quickly.
I believe we've been talking about this for 7-8 years. Supposedly there was a couple spots available, and that's what NARSH was going to be checking into for 6, 7, 8 years. if it was possible. And that's all we need to know, if it's possible to rent it out and find some. We're losing money if we can rent it out. So we should, if we're going to keep it on the table, we should put a time frame and get it over with.
I'm going to volunteer to take that project on.
And,
I will do the digging because we still don't know. And
Right.
it could be $30,000 to $50,000 a year.
Sure.
if
Or more.
somebody's willing to go on it, because it's,
So I'll take that on with a timeline because it says there's a question with the new 5G impact. That doesn't really tell us anything. What's the question, Joe?
well, I think that our antenna isn't going to be substantial enough to provide the equipment, hold the equipment that is needed. That's all.
Okay, I'll take that one
That's
on.
fine. Well, all right. Well, great. The next one, the cemetery maintenance millage, you know, as Ray was just saying, if we're not going to pursue that, we should take it off at this time.
I would put that on hold. Get out there and do some better grading while you can. If the guys don't know how, they need to learn. It can be graded. It can be 100% better than what it is.
They've been working on that. I don't know if you've been out there lately, but they've been
No,
trying
I
to
haven't.
make it better.
Ken, did you want to go through all these, or did you want us to take a red pen to these and bring them by and drop them off for Joe and then have him summarize for a second meeting?
Well,
Joe
we're
has
here. Might as well talk about it.
Joe has asked
only
that we
gonna
go
take-
through them quickly.
Won't take
Okay.
long.
All right.
Sorry.
So,
All right. So I think cemetery
millage we
maintenance,
take off. Go ahead.
cemetery maintenance, you could remove improvement millage and just leave, create a master plan for the cemeteries working with the cemetery advisory committee.
Okay.
That still has not been done, right?
No. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Parks and recreation funding and grants.
That's ongoing anyway.
It is
You know,
ongoing.
You got a lot of details in here. We could probably, because of the uncertain nature of what we're facing this year, we could probably just put a simple sentence in there about pursuing available grants and matching funds where applicable, instead of
Yeah, just
putting these details on here that may or may not be relevant a month or two from now.
no.
Is that
Well,
that?
right. You're right. Well, the objective does say that. We just leave the objective the way it is. The yellow I put in there was just thought you know what we've done on it.
Right, right. No, I appreciate that, but maybe be a little more generic and say, you know, we're going to ask for what's available and we're going to make a decision on a case by case basis. But
Okay.
we, you know, these grants and whatnot, they may not be there, and
Right.
like I said, it's going to be tough sledding for the next year or two.
Or there might be some infrastructure grant money, perhaps.
Yeah, we don't know.
Right.
Promote efficient and effective municipal operations and services.
Okay. And Ken, you were right. It says right on there, the DDA is to take care of that.
Right. Remove snow removal, downtown rubbish removal, dumpster consolidation.
DDA is working on that.
Remove it.
Yeah, okay, good.
I say remove the snow removal. There's no way DPW can do it. They can subcontract it, and that's, or put a SAD in, special assessment for the businesses. They should be paying for it.
Thank you, John. We're going to remove it.
Okay.
Moving on to transition to cityhood. Before we even do discussion about, do we want to still pursue that? I think, where did we get hung up on that? Because I was trying to think about that today. I know there was a debate about, or some kind of a debate about whether we were going to get people on the commission or not. And then it just faltered. It never moved forward.
Well, some people were going to get together, but I think we need to spend a fair bit of money to investigate this and pursue it legally and organizationally. And I didn't think that the payback was substantial. It may be, you know, slightly positive, but I think anytime you're looking at a business case that's that razor thin and you got to spend time and effort to do it, to me, it's not worth it right now. I say we table it for a year.
I'd like to remove it at this time.
Okay.
I would agree.
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask,
Unless there's substantial savings, it's not worth it.
Joe, I don't think we just got kind of guesstimates of what the financial might be. It wasn't anything.
No, it was specific. I had specific impacts. I was only going to save the average tax, $100,000 taxable value on $210
Remove it.
a year.
I thought there was still information missing, and that wasn't as accurate as it needed to be, but remove it.
Well, there was the cost of becoming a city. I do have that data. I didn't share it with you because, again, it's something that we wanted the committee to address. But there is cost involved with, you know, doing our own, paying for our own assessing and our own elections and collecting the tax. The big thing was collecting taxes twice a year, including the school. So there's quite an administrative component.
Right. I don't think we ever fully captured all the ancillary costs that go with it, and there's risk with those costs.
Yes.
We estimated some headcount, I think, or some contract costs, but I just propose that we table it for a year in the environment we find ourselves. I think we're going to have bigger fish to fry this year.
You good with that? Teresa, you good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, remove it. Street and parking lot improvement, remove it.
Okay.
Sanitary sewer system improvement program, that needs to be updated, but it should remain.
Okay.
Parking facilities, remove it.
Right.
Yep.
Water main replacement project, remove it.
Yep.
Well, okay. Just to let you know, I don't know if you got your email or checked it today, the hydrants on Orion Road are only 3 pounds per square inch.
Well, and that's fine, Joe.
Across the street. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we're going to talk more about that. But as far as we're knee deep in that project, no reason to have it as our goals and objectives going forward.
Right.
I saw those flows today at the hydrants, and that is something's drastically wrong.
Yep.
Whether there's a valve halfway off or.
I agree. You don't have 60 psi across the street and 40, 50 feet away without something being wrong.
2 different systems.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then we got 60 psi across the street. I'm not going to commit to a big funding to do based on that.
I agree. I had the same comments about there's a valve issue somewhere, but all right, so remove it. Equipment replacement program, update the equipment replacement schedule, remove it.
Okay.
DPW building and storage plan, that one, we still might keep it out there because that salt structure is no good.
We approved that salt structure 4, 5, 6 years ago. Why it never got done, I don't know. But back at that time, I think the budget was 15, 16,000, I thought. And I thought we approved it. So if you're talking about a whole building, that's different story. DPW garage too. So is that what you're talking about? DPW garage also?
Well, this one, right. You know, right now we got a developer's got a concept plan that I'll be presenting to you. I just got an update today that we can talk about that site. It would be just for the salt storage building, and it was around the $16,000 to $20,000 as well.
Okay.
The current one is unsafe.
Right.
Because if you build a new DPW garage, then you could incorporate public restrooms for the park there.
True. Yeah.
Prepare sewer ordinance for property owners. Done.
That's done.
Paint Creek stream bank stabilization should remain.
Yep. We're hoping to hear on that.
Children's Park gazebo, let it go.
We're done with doing any upgrades there. It's not
We're not going to spend money for removable railing.
a significant goal for, right.
Parks and Recreation funding, I think it should stay because we need to continue to look for money. And the only thing we could do is create a nonprofit, Friends of the Park.
That's
been done.
Yeah. Okay. Was created. Okay, good.
I'm not happy still about our millage that the township didn't involve us in, but anyways. Greens Park, complete capital improvement to Greens Park, pavilion gazebo, build a playground structure. I would leave it. We'll continue to look for funding.
Yeah. Well, that's on our list to get.
Green energy projects.
You can delete that.
I agree.
The village hall.
That's really the DDA again, Joe. They need to look at changing those lamps like we've talked with them about that are not changed over yet that are part of our corridor, the ones that are all orange and glow.
Right.
Right.
That's a different matter.
Some of that's just become common sense facilities work nowadays as opposed to some sort of policy statement.
Right.
I don't think we need to plan to power the village on solar panels or a wind turbine, but just going to quality lighting is the way to go. Everybody will do that without a statement being attached to it.
Right.
Very good.
Replace and upgrade the trees and bushes in downtown parks.
DDA money.
We can leave it as an objective, though.
Okay.
Did we get the oak trees from the county or state this winter?
May 18th, we're supposed to be picking them up.
Promote and protect public health, safety, and welfare. That could be a COVID statement if we wanted to include that in our goals and objectives, like make sure that citizens have full access to data and health services, XYZ. It's more of a political thing than probably anything else, but it's probably the right thing to do. Senior citizens, identify and implement collaborative efforts with public. That really should be, and it states the library, the DDA. I'd remove it. That's a DDA thing again.
Senior citizens?
What's everybody's thoughts?
Okay. All right.
It's fluff.
I think it's fluff. I mean, honestly, being a senior citizen myself or close to it, John, you're probably 6 months older than me. I think it's fluff. I don't think we do anything as a village special for our senior citizens.
I agree.
We don't do a single thing for them.
Yeah.
And to say that we're going to help them age in place, it's not a priority in any financial decision we make whatsoever. And I think that's where the rubber hits the road for our seniors.
Mm-hmm.
What's it mean, age in place?
Help them stay in their house as long as they want to.
It means, Doug,
Yeah.
you just got 2 minutes older, right where you're at.
I'm older than I'm not older than John.
Now you're 3 minutes older, and you haven't gone any place. You're in the same place.
I used to like it when the senior center was in the village.
Yeah.
It was used a lot and everything, but you know that that Baptist church that's going to be turned into a center, is that going to have anything to do with the seniors, or?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
It's going to be an activity center, supposedly, so it could include seniors.
Well, we talked about pursuing some opportunities for a community center in the village, and that would be great, but we don't do anything for our seniors as far as tax relief or property tax relief or utility relief or anything else. And there are a lot of communities in this country that do.
Yeah.
I can cite you specific examples where they give people school tax breaks, property tax breaks at a certain age. And, you know, we don't do any of that. So I don't think we're helping seniors age in place, which means keep their house, afford their house in a climate of ever increasing cost. We don't do anything to help with that. So I think we should either do it or take that statement out.
Yeah. Would there be a possibility that we could do anything like that?
Well, other communities do it.
Well, there you go. It could be a goal and objective, and we could do a discovery.
I'd like to.
There's other things that can be done too. We do have a somewhat defunct aging in place seniors group here in our community that have tried to move forward, but we could reach out to federal and look to get discounts, heavy discounts, because I've seen these type of programs and encouraged the previous commission to do it, and I don't think they ever did, but discounts on like these alert programs, which can cost like $30 a month, and you get a little push button so that if you fall down and break your hip and you're incapacitated, you have an alert system that will send the fire department running. And there's programs out there that if we were to push and look for those, there's some other things we could do to bring to the table for the seniors.
Okay. Yeah, I think we could check into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll leave a senior statement, Joe, and modify it, kind of make it so that we need to hound dog that and find some things for seniors.
Right. Okay.
Goal, promote open transportation, inclusive, engaging space, and collaborative governments. Remove it. Promote, is everybody okay with that?
Nobody said anything, so I guess.
Well, I'm
Yep.
I'm reading it and I'm like, are we still using the Notify Me service?
No.
Are we looking at,
No.
do we want a similar service for residents? Like, is that something we want to do?
We've tried to promote it and nobody's grabbed a hold of it. It's been around for about, maybe 8 years.
Do we want to look for other ways to engage? I don't know what they would be, but do we want that as a goal to find ways to engage the community?
I don't know anybody that could run a Facebook page for us in our administration or our Twitter or a social media with response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be good and bad. It could be burdensome.
Yep.
So you can't pick up the phone. Well, I can't pick up the phone and call. I'm not sure what better way to do it.
Our biggest thing is we use the police Facebook page that Harold and Ray Hammond
That's true.
maintain. So when there's some news item, Harold's very good about posting it because you do have quite a following, right, Harold?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of people that do actually tune in to it. So, and I do get quite a few people that will message me too, certain questions.
Good.
Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
Moving on.
Yeah, our police page. Yeah, on Facebook.
Promote a positive community image, public art. I think it should stay. That's a program that we're in right now.
Yep.
Beautification Commission. Establish a Beautification Commission.
Yep.
Business properties throughout the village. I have no problem with this, but in the highlighted area, it says the Village of Orion Beautification Commission held a 27th annual award ceremony.
It should be Oxford.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know we had one.
Yeah, I didn't either.
All right.
27 years now.
So what the hell do I care about Oxford anyways, though?
But yeah.
Okay. All right.
So if you'd like to do that, I can introduce an ordinance to that effect. We used to have one years ago.
To give out a beautification award.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I know Auburn Hills used to do that.
Right. Okay. We'll get that going.
Rental ordinance for short and long-term
We've already done.
Airbnbs. That's been completed, but you know what the problem is there? Because I've talked to a couple of the neighbors that call our chief and complain, and they say, look, you village, you did what you could. You nice guy. Harold's a great chief, everything else, but there's no teeth. There's no way to enforce it. And we never did complete that. We gave Harold power, but no shape or form to it. Is that not accurate, Harold?
Yeah, I'm just at this point, and I got a call to Mary. My big question is these places grandfathered, like the one out on West Point, and we just he called last night. We had a complaint. There's somebody that moved in. I had Lieutenant Stanfield check it out. This guy's got a 4-month lease at 244 West Point. So
He complies.
But my biggest question is, looking at, have we determined yet who, if he's grandfathered, and because he had it before the ordinance.
Joe?
Well, the one thing too, our attorney recommended that we would adopt a rental inspection registration program, if you recall, for both short and long term at one point. So the question is that something that council want to have continue as a goal to have a rental registration / inspection program, because that was the one way she said you could eventually, if they don't comply and maintain the properties safely and in good condition, they could lose their grandfathering provision for those short term.
All right, so let's go back to two thoughts here. One of them would be the financial consideration, much like Mr. Hammond has stated again, is they would need to pay some kind of a registration fee, $100 or whatever it is. Everybody does. The latest statistic I saw in our community, as we're looking at census and how to get the census numbers up, is 25% of our community is rental. So, okay, $100 to apply, but that's going to go right to the renter.
Sure.
So we're going to hit people with cost increase in our efforts to try to create a compliance program. Then we're going to also create more burden or more paperwork at the village administrative level. Somebody's going to need to create the database and watch all that. So what do we want to do?
That's almost a full-time job with that many units.
Oh,
if
sure.
You're talking, hundreds of rentals.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have the Bureau of Rental Management for the village.
Right.
And we don't have the people, or we really just want to deal with the short-term stuff.
Right.
Do you want to charge and inspect every house that gets rented every few years?
Yeah. And so what Mary says is we can't just choose one, because now we've opened ourselves up to a lawsuit because we're attacking short-term rentals. And in the community currently, we have 1,345 households. And if it's truly 25%, which is a SEMCOG data, that is what, about 300 rentals. So I'm just saying.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So sounds like remove it. Right? At this time.
I don't know. I guess I'm looking, personally, I would like to create the lawsuit. I'd like to put some hard, stakes in the ground on these short-term rentals. If somebody's going to sue us, so be it.
The problem is it's a national issue.
Oh,
and the cost of fighting that in court, I don't think our budget could handle.
Oh, we get the NAACP in here or whatever.
Well, the National
I know what you mean. There's some
Board of
group.
Realtors, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather have somebody else fight that battle.
But Joe, can't we do this? Can't we say, you have to prove to us that you deserve grandfathering? Show us your previous grandfathered documentation,
right?
Advertisement, receipts, and we create criteria to prove that they've been grandfathered. Now we're really not segregated. We're not, we're just asking for that information.
Right.
We don't have a list of who was grandfathered in, do we?
No. Well, only those that we know had complaints on. I mean, a registration program, not inspection program, just a registration program, but that's the administrative aspect of it. I mean, right now, Harold, you're handling them on a case-by-case basis. And when you get a complaint, you determine whether or not it is short or long-term, because short-term is prohibited under our ordinance. And of course, we know the 3 or 4 that were complained on before, that quote, our attorneys advising their grandfathers, and you don't want to ticket them because you're not going to win in court.
So what about?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chief.
We're taking it, case by case. I know we had one situation that he felt it was a violation of an executive order by the governor. I felt differently only because the mother and daughter had just came into town the same day the executive order came in from Florida. And actually, she was up here to take care of her father. They were moving her father out of a nursing home. So with that being said, I didn't see that as a violation. We wrote a report on it. There was some thought of also sending it over to the prosecutor's office, but she's a Florida resident. And, you know, getting her back for, you know, if they do. And actually, we did talk to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office on this. And they were kind of concerned on some constitutional issues on that. We did talk to the head guy, Parnak, over at the prosecutor's office. And then other than that, so really it was basically an executive order thing that he complained about. But we only had 2 recently, but we're doing a case-by-case basis. Now, definitely, I've told the guys, you know, any other type of violations that they see, you know, most definitely let's write that. But I've been kind of a little nervous about enforcing that because he has said that he will sue. And I just want to make sure that we have the, you know, I just don't want to foolishly go out there and get us sued. So, and I'm just waiting for some kind of direction to go further with it. Well, he claims he's granted.
Okay.
I think that it needs to stay, and we need to do some additional work on it, Joe.
Keep it for now. Okay. All right. The rezoning, we're in the process of doing that with the master plan update. So I don't know if we need to keep it on there or not. It's going to be covered by the master plan updates.
Remove it.
And then the same thing with the redevelopment ready committee. We're already in the process of becoming that. And we've already been identified as being engaged, which means that any project could be considered. So that one's in place. So it's going to take
it.
So, okay.
Does anybody have any additional goals that they'd like to see added?
I did have 2 on the next page. I think one was whether or not we want to look at putting sidewalk along Evergreen Cemetery. MDOT backed away from doing that because they were concerned with the historical issue of putting a sidewalk in front of the historic cemetery. But that's one gap we have in the sidewalk because they're putting it on both sides of the cemetery. And I was wondering if that's something we could proceed with having the DDA pay for this. It's in the DDA district because there is space along there that you could have a trail, you know, a sidewalk trail extension on that side. And so that was just a goal to consider. And then the rain gardens, we had a proposal from the Clinton River Watershed Council, remember, for Greens Park and for Children's Park. So those were 2 that I was looking to see if that's something council would like to continue to have as a goal and objective or not.
I am pro the sidewalk because I've had to walk along that way a number of times with my kids. You know, it's the only way for, if you're in the village, if you want to get to Eva's to eat ice cream safely, there's no way to cross the road there on 24 from the other side. There's no sidewalk. So things like that. Yeah, it just seems like a continuation of the sidewalk there makes a lot of sense for safety reasons, or people trying to get places, or even, you know, somebody wants to walk to the post office, somebody, you know, if we're about improving walkability and stuff and safety in our community.
Is there enough room between the picket fence and the curb?
Yes.
To put one in safely?
Yes. It gets at the southeast corner or northeast corner of the cemetery. It's like 4 or 5 feet, but that's better than none.
Right. Okay. And how long is that?
The front? It's probably 120 feet, probably.
How much?
120 feet, probably.
Oh, really? That small? And what was the cost?
I estimated 30,000, but that's probably a high number.
Oh. Yeah. Any chance of DPW doing it? I got a cost for $2,500 just for material for 300 feet.
I would, as you know, working with concrete is somewhat of an art.
Art?
Finish it off and make it look nice, and I would.
Oh, we did it forever. Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah.
Most all the parks we did.
I mean,
okay.
I could ask them if they'd be willing to take on that big of a stretch.
Yeah. Well, the cost of concrete, I figured out 300 feet, and it was about $2,500
for the concrete.
Yeah. So the rest is all labor.
We can get the cost of the material and see.
Or fund by DP or DDA.
DDA could pay for it. Yes.
Right.
Okay. Let them contract it then.
And the same thing with the rain gardens, you know, technically they're in the DDA district. They could ask the DDA to pay for them.
And who's going to maintain them?
Well,
kids.
That's open for discussion.
Yeah. Well, we had, I had at Flinton 24 in front of the bank, and then on the other side, AutoZone, I had 2 huge flower beds there at one time, and there's still water there and there's still electric on both sides. But trying to get somebody to help maintain them was almost impossible.
How much maintenance would go into a rain garden like that?
Should be just thinning out the plants as they overgrow, right? And weeds.
Yeah, somebody pulling weeds.
If we find alternative methods of funding, I'm fine.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll add those then as goals.
Any other ones?
It's just not a high priority for spending. So
any other ones? Any other goals?
Well, just as I mentioned, the sidewalk being finished on Washington Street. I mean, that's no high priority, but are we ever going to do that?
It's on the one side?
Yeah, the west side of Washington, from Shadbolt up to what's that street past Elizabeth?
Jackson?
Yes, Shadbolt to Elizabeth.
But is there sidewalk on the east side?
Yeah, there's sidewalk on the east side, but there's none on the west.
Yeah, not all.
There isn't on Washington either, from Shadbolt to Jackson.
Right. Yeah, that too.
That too. There's a few places around town.
Yeah. I mean, it's been talked about in the past a few times, but you know, I don't know what's become of it. So.
Well, let me see if I can get DPW to agree
Yeah.
on long stretches and see what we can come up with.
Okay.
All right. Right.
Keep in mind, that's good CBDG fund project, correct?
That's what I was wondering. I was going to ask that. Yeah.
We could. Yeah, you're right. They can use it for new sidewalk. That is true.
We got.
Except it's not in the Grand Eligible Zone. It's the only area we could put it is the south.
Yeah. That no, it's not. Yeah. Okay.
Not in an eligible area.
All right. I've got a couple others just for consideration. We've talked about on the Planning Commission level, including some type of historical inclusion in our Planning Commission / site plan / development going forward. I don't think this may be for the goals of the actual council, but it just throwing it out there for consideration, maybe in our ordinances, because like right now, the old Pet Center building, the new building, there was no historic character, and that raised quite a bit of concern from citizens about where are we going with this community and what are we trying to maintain? Everything's going to look new, we're going to have old, or are we going to have new looking like it has historic character to it, or what are we doing? And we don't have that base covered.
So some guidelines, historic preservation guidelines, Ken?
And I'm not sure about preservation because
right.
that can be misinterpreted, but historic character guideline.
Okay.
I mentioned a COVID statement.
Right.
And that COVID statement could have, like, we're going to look to reduce the budget because we know that we're going to be hard hit, and have statements about safety and staff and so on and so forth. I was curious about road improvements. We've got some roads in our community that are deteriorating badly.
Yes.
And not that we're going to find funding nor have funding for them, but a statement just so that it gets on our consideration for a second year out or a third, so that we're always paying attention to it. We don't have money for roads right now, technically, correct, Joe?
We have some, but not enough.
Yeah.
Well, we had that Gold Street and parking lot improvement program, so we could just make it street improvement program ongoing.
I have tree removal. This is just something to think about. Again, it goes back to infrastructure, because I feel like we were kind of blindsided with these pump stations. I had asked the village managers in the past repeatedly, is there anything we're not paying attention to? They'd say, oh, no, we're okay, we're okay. Well, this was one of those sleeping costs that we just weren't on board with. But think about trees that we have in the community that are on the village property, that some of them are going to fall down and they're going to be a problem. They're big. They're like 100-year-old oaks that are just hanging there. And if someone were to go around the community and actually look at what trees are the responsibility of the village, I think we'd be surprised how many there are.
We get to conduct a survey, determine any dangerous trees, and come up with a plan to remove them.
Maybe a statement considering infrastructure funding, as far as continue to solicit state, federal, county, and look for infrastructure funding. I also was wondering about our current consultant. Do we want to have a council objective of reviewing our consultants? And quite possibly in some cases, we might want to go out to bid to just see what's out there. We haven't done that with our planners in a while. I don't think we've done it with our engineers in a while.
The engineers you did 3 years ago.
Okay, I think it should be done every 3, quite honestly.
Right.
I'm just saying it. I'm just thinking outside the box here.
I think definitely looking at the planner, because one of the options and the COVID things brought up is about whether you want to bring back in-house planning services rather than contracting it out.
Right. And then another one I thought about too was we have properties throughout the community that the village owns that we do nothing with. And an example of that would be our road ends, especially on the lake. This was a council question probably 10 years ago. Would we like to sell them? There's a number of parcels of property around. We've got one right now we're trying to figure out that's behind Orion Marine. We've owned it. And they have 2 docks on it. And there's a number of those around.
Right.
And we do nothing with it.
Now those would, anything on the water, remember the charter says you have to have a vote of the people to sell anything on the lake. Remember that?
Parks.
True.
Well, they're not parks. They're not.
No. But any lakefront property, the charter says we have to have a vote of the people to sell it.
Right.
Okay.
And we're not maintaining. We're also opening ourselves up for, what's that called, where they cut the grass, the neighbor does for 20 years, like eminent domain? Or no, he claims it as his.
Apply to the village. Government is immune from that.
Okay.
You can't have adverse possession. You can't do that on government property.
Okay. So anyways, if we were to look at that, there might be a couple $1 million in property that could be sold, but just saying. That's it for me. We don't need to do the property. I just wanted to mention it.
Anybody have any other goals they'd like to have us address?
Take care of what we got. Nothing new.
Maybe we have plenty.
Okay,
Just
we'll
asking.
close that portion of it. We'll move on to the budget. And Joe Young?
Yes, council, we've got the budget to review. You know, the last meeting we did discuss the DDA budget, and I don't know if there's any follow-up questions from that or not, but I did send out today, Molly had sent some more specifics on the downtown marketing plan, which I don't know if you had a chance to look at, where they talked about postcards and direct mail and some of their activities they're looking at doing. So I don't know if there's anything from the DDA budget further that you want to discuss or need information on or not.
So what time was that sent?
I'm sorry?
What time was it sent?
The downtown marketing was early this morning, like 9-10 o'clock.
Okay.
It's a one-pager for Molly. I forwarded it for Molly. Also forwarded the bylaws. I'm sorry?
9:23 a.m. if you're looking through an inbox.
And also the bylaws for the nonprofit for the DDA was forwarded also. I don't know if you saw those or not. Okay. So if there's anything on the DDA, anybody's question on, if not, we'll move on. Then the general.
I do.
Okay, I'm sorry.
On the page 12 and 13, which is the work plan overview. Joe, there is and I looked at these, economic strategy, organization, promotion, design, economic vitality. I don't see that branding, that $50,000 branding statement tucked in here anywhere. Did I miss it? Because it should be.
Well, it's got the annual marketing plan listed under new initiatives.
But I think the marketing and the branding are two different things.
They're this one committee. They have alternating names. Marketing and branding are the same people, the same group.
Okay, so where's marketing in this group then?
It's under economic vitality. Under new initiatives, they list the annual marketing plan.
All right, I'd ask that so we can associate it properly that it says marketing/branding.
Sure. It is a separate sub-code committee because there's an economic vitality committee, then there's a marketing and branding committee. So it's somewhat not clearly shown here that there's actually more committee.
That's a lot of money. I think they should have their own column, Joe. That's a lot of money. With
I
the
agree.
statement of
Right.
what they're doing for branding.
Yeah.
I didn't pick it out in there. I couldn't find it.
No. But she did submit, the presentation at last meeting about what the breakdown of the $50,000 they were targeting. But then again today, she sent more specific information on the details.
Yeah.
Basically, it was just $25,000 in addition to what they spent last year, right? For new marketing. Yeah.
Ballpark that amount. And, the thing of it is, it's a lot of money in marketing. And, even it was brought up, marketing, if it's effective, is what we want. And that's the one thing the DDA can do because it's marketing the whole downtown area, really our whole area, economic area. So the new techniques that are out there, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or these Facebook items, and billboards, they are touching people that would not necessarily know that. And so we that some of these things you're not going to know the benefit until you've tried them and see what the impact is. So, to me, there's value there. And I think the business people appreciate it. They need to make sure it's effective though. And look at new ideas. So, we were complimented on what amount of resource money we are dedicating and what the variety of exposure we're trying to accomplish by attracting new people to come that would not normally come here regularly. We want the people that do live in the area to come here because a lot of them don't come either. So we're trying to get regional, this destination drawing, as well as getting a local support of our businesses in the area. So it's key to let people know what's going on.
Yeah. I'm not trying to debate right now the actual need or whatever. I just like to have it called out. I didn't see it in this plan.
Right, no, I understand. Right, I appreciate it.
And you already mentioned the Beautification Committee. That's pretty much not existent right now. And then moving on to the packet page 14. I'd just like to make a statement. It's talking about budget fiscal year 2021. The very first sentence says the DDA board held 7 budget workshops between February 13th and March 5th. I think I attended 5 of them out of the 7. And I just wanted to say, council, if you haven't had an opportunity, you need to next year try to attend some of those, because I'm going to advocate to the DDA. They're so poorly attended. There's like 2 people, 3 people from all of the committees and the DDA boards and stuff like that. It's amazing. And so that's the ground beginning of that budget preparation for the DDA. And when we sit at a council level and we say, I don't like this, or I'd like to see that, if we're not participating, we shouldn't bitch. Sorry. Anyways, moving on to the page.
Starting on page 24, I updated the letter, just really highlighting at this moment what we think the economic impact of the COVID, the shutdown of the economy might be. I did give an update after I sent this out. We got an update from the state on the gas and weight tax money, and their projections are better than what we were anticipating, but that's preliminary. So I don't know how they could reach a decision, conclusion on the reduction only being, 10% this first year. If you remember what that highlights was, it's kind of strange that they'd come out with that while we're still in the midst of having this economic recovery. We're not even open up yet. So, and we're still waiting to hear, and we'll be waiting for the next, several months, what impact that totally will have on us, and if and to what extent the federal government will help supplement income losses at the state level and communities as well. So, meanwhile, our water and sewer revenues is the bigger factor. The bigger factor too is what impact it will have. We get a monthly bill from the township on the water usage, and so I'm just waiting for the April bill to see what the volume of water is down by, which is an indication. Obviously, if we're only pumping so much water, we're only going to be billing so much water. So I'll be able to better, say what the impact might be on the water and sewer revenues. So just wanted to update you on where we're at with the COVID impact and the economic downturn. Yet we're still monitoring that and waiting for specifics, and where that'll all shake out, we're unknown at this time. Obviously, we're still continuing to tighten the belt on expenditures, only doing the things that bare minimum we need to do. I mentioned last meeting about the vacancies we have, that we're in the process of testing for the police officer position. So we're addressing that. There's some part-time vacancies also we're going to be addressing, as well as the code enforcement. And of course, the DPW, we've got a vacancy right at this moment as well, besides the seasonal person, which we would normally hire. But at the moment, DPW is doing the best they can at the moment, because we're still working on 1 or 2 people on a shift at this moment until the return to work order is lifted, the stay home order is lifted. The construction lift comes off Thursday, so residential and commercial construction will be beginning again. So we're glad to see that happening. But I just wanted to mention those positions that we're dealing. Of course, the acting DPW director, Chris Carpenter, we're keeping that going. I haven't pursued any of the applications yet, because again, we need to get through this downturn and get back online, because it could impact the availability of people, and then give opportunity to see how Chris can adapt and perform in these situations. So I did want to mention that.
When did you want to do the promotion on Chris?
Well, I think we'd want to wait. You know, he's only been on here acting, but he really hasn't had a chance to do much because it's been limited. Because it basically, he took over March 19th was the week that the stay home order came into play. So he's really not had a chance to perform at full capacity. But he's done a great job with what he's had at this point, dealing with all the various issues that has come up, which there are every day. There's something new comes up, and they're keeping the cemeteries and parks in good shape, and we haven't been out on the island to get the leaves that are out there yet, but that's on our list. I mean, we tell people to bag them, but some of them are on, village areas, along the road, common areas. So, but they are looking to get to it once we get other issues, because obviously we got to keep up with the grass at this moment. Don't want to lose that and keep the cemeteries in good shape and parks in good shape. But we could look at, Chris, soon on that.
So in our budget process, we would usually have a 3-ring binder with tab section, and we would roll through it. Are we going to do that this budget?
Again, this is my 3rd budget with you, and I've not yet provided you a 3-ring binder, but I've thought about it. So if you prefer to have that, we certainly can have that with the tabs. Certainly can.
And what we would do is we would break it down in sections like DPW, police. We pick 3 or 4, do them one night, 4 the next night, and 2 nights we easily covered, and everybody got to see plain as day.
Right.
And so this is one of those sessions, correct?
It can be, yes. Well, Harold's here tonight, and I told him to be prepared to speak to his budget. And where he's at is he took over since in December, really. And he's been learning a lot and performing very well and dealing with difficult situations that he hasn't encountered before, because every day is something new. But I don't know, Harold, if you want to speak a minute about, because right now you do have a full-time vacancy and some part-time vacancies. So if you want to speak to where and how you're managing right now, because I know you're keeping your overtime down to a minimum, which includes you covering shifts at times. Sometimes 12-hour shifts, sometimes 8-hour or 6-hour shifts. So I don't know, Terrell, if you want to comment about the police department budget and what you anticipate this upcoming year.
Yeah. Again, keeping an eye on the budget so I don't go over certain areas. So I've been, like I said, keeping the overtime down the best I can. And I don't mind being out there. For the contract, I can kind of work 2 shifts without violating any union contract. Going forward, with what we got.
I'll foreman, you cook supper. I'll get it ready.
We got one big expense, but I think we can hold off on that until the end of December 2021. That's the live scan machine. But then again, that could get pushed back because of this COVID.
That's like a 20.
Pretty much right now. Pardon me, Joe.
It's like a $21,000 expense.
Yes, right now it's at $21,000. There was, unfortunately, back in September of last year, there was a grant opportunity. I wasn't aware of this until December, but we were well past that. But I'll keep my eyes open for that. And then I also did find out that the price may have lowered a little bit too, maybe to $17,000. So I'll keep an eye on that. I'll also look for some grant, if there's any available out there. The cars themselves, I gave Joe where our mileage are in our cars, and we might be able to squeak out a little bit, with maybe another year with the car, because the new Explorer is getting detailed now, Oh, it'll probably be on the road probably mid-June. So we'll be close to July, and that'll have very low miles on it. What we're also doing is one of our vehicles, the new vehicle is going to be like the day vehicle, and then the newest vehicle, the other Explorer, will be the night vehicle. Why we're doing that should keep miles off, so we don't throw them just on one vehicle. So it should keep us in the warranty a lot longer if something should go wrong. So those were a few plans that I have with the vehicles, trying to keep low mileage and on our fleet. Am I missing something, Joe?
Oh, that was good on that part. I'm really trying to, so we can not look at having to buy a vehicle this next budget year.
Yeah, I think we could probably get away with it.
Yeah. Or we could budget for half a vehicle this year and the budget for the other half the next year and actually purchase it.
Yeah, we could probably. Like I said, with the plan, again, it's all in my head. Me and Lieutenant Stanfield have been playing with the numbers. I think we can get away with it.
One thing I wanted to, if you would mention about what the shift coverage, police patrol coverage is during the year, because I don't know if everybody's aware, especially Teresa and Ray, what our provision is. We have 3 full-time people on, but we supplement it with part-time people. And if you want to explain to April and October what our schedule is.
Yeah. So what we do is in April, normally do is 1 week, like on a Friday, we would have a second car on, and then we make it a Saturday night, a second car. Things start to get busy April, May, June, July. Once we get to Memorial Day, we then cars on and they're part-time officers. It's a Friday night from like 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. or 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. And they work a Friday night and a Saturday night. And again, that's because downtown gets busy. Now, because of the COVID-19, I have not put a second car on in April. I did not put a second car on again in May because there's no need. So at this point, I haven't put those those part-timers to work. So basically throughout the year, we'll have that second car each weekend until actually we go until like Halloween, so October 31st. And then we slow it down and we put a second car on like the first weekend of November on a Friday night. The next one would be on a Saturday. And we continue that until, December 31st. And then from January to April, we're pretty much this one car because things are awful quiet normally through the winter time. So that's pretty much what our staffing, our part-time pretty much, because we used to have long before me, but we did have that extra full-time. We had like 5 officers at one time, and that never got filled. So what our part-time do is they actually fill that shift that we would have had that we never replaced the full-timer. So that's pretty much where a lot of the hours go to the part-time.
With the cancellation of events, that'll also result in some budget savings as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We won't have that extra manpower for the flower fair, the Memorial Day parade, the Jubilee, and even possibly both fireworks will possibly be canceled. So there'll be less hours there that we'll have to utilize part-time.
I think Dragon on the Lake looks like they're going to scale it back this year between the COVID and then the road construction. It's going to be a challenge for people to get to here. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely will keep an eye on things too. I mean, I know what things look kind of bleak looking forward, so I'll do everything I can also to work within my means.
Are there any other questions for Harold or information you'd like to see or anything? Well, regarding, if you want to go to Public Works for a minute, the big thing with Public Works is the vacancy right now, but in the seasonal, but their equipment wise, you know, we got the new dump truck this year, and we thought we were going to need a utility truck, but we were able to salvage the item, and we did talk previously about changing that out for a pickup with a trailer, so we could have better use of the utilization of that equipment. But right now, the utility trucks are up and running, and in light of the budget considerations, we would hold off on any future outlay of equipment, even if long term would be beneficial. But right now, because we don't know how bad the economic impact is going to be, we're holding off on the equipment, any changes that we might be more efficient at. Well, I don't know if there's any other comment or question. Yeah.
Where are we at on the leaf pickup? Do we have two trucks for that now, or?
We have one truck, but we'll now be able to keep the unit on the truck and not have to switch a valve back and forth.
Okay.
So that part's going to help.
Yeah, because I couldn't remember if we were getting two vacuums or two trucks for
this one. But we did refurbish it last year, and it's in good condition at this point.
Okay.
So anything else on that? I mean, we do have some patching that we're going to need to make for water main breaks and some areas of roads that are deteriorating that we'll be looking at coming back to council. Like, you know, I'm getting calls now from people saying, hey, my road's torn up. When are you going to get to it? So we'll be putting together some specifications of bids, because we do have some money in the major and local streets in our funds, which they can only be used for streets. So we'll be looking at bringing that forward to you. So of course, we know in the water and sewer area where we've got the major projects going on there, we're hoping that there'll be some grant money or infrastructure money that we could possibly consider applying for rather than borrowing money. Because based on, at this point, I guess the question is, do we want to hope we talked about it, but I guess that if we needed to formally concede that, yes, we do want to hold off on proceeding with any further state loan money. Remember, they had the 2% bond issue money, and you know, our real goal was the water flow issue. And the case on Orion Road, since there's water hydrants available on the other side of the street, it's not a safety issue that the fire department has any concern with. The one thing we do need to address is the lead gooseneck leads that we have in the community. We estimated, well, there's about 32 we still need to, or 39 now, I'm sorry, that we need to go back and address as part of the existing water main project. And we'll be coming back to you after we finish up this next phase, because we do have to go down the 4-inch, replace this 4-inch on what's called winter sub, down there by Summer and Granville, yeah. And those streets, that area has got to be done yet. And that's part of the Fontana contract. So as soon as they finish Heights Road, then they'll be going over there by the Kroger gas station area, getting that project going. So I want to make, is there consensus that we don't want to proceed with the next phase of the water main project? Something I can put on the agenda, or how do you want me to address that? Because we do have, right now we're going to have to go back. If we don't submit the information basically this month, then we're going to have to go back, and if we do need to borrow money, we're going to have to go back and compete with other communities for that money. So, and that's what I'm recommending we do.
Joe, would you say there's no liability issue for us not replacing it since the flow is low because of the other hydrants, correct?
Fine with what we have.
Okay.
Now we do need to check the gate valve, make sure there's not a problem with that. It's partially open or something, so we're going to check that. But at this time, there's no liability issue. I mean, the fire chief said that water pressure has been that low since the 90s. So
I suggest we table it for this year. Take it off the budget for this year, off the plan.
Okay. Do you want to make that a motion, or do we just?
Well, if it is a motion, I second it.
I'll make a formal motion that we table the discussion on water project for the rest of this fiscal year.
And second.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Matheson,
Yes.
Narsh, I'm sorry, Ranville,
Yes.
Rutt,
Yes.
Van Portfleet,
Yes.
Hobbs,
Yes.
Hammond.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. All right. Well, again, on our budget, the other big issue was, in the next meeting we have, which is Monday the 11th, May 11th, we have to adopt the budget and set the tax rate. And as you've seen in the packet, we're looking at maintaining the current tax rate as is. So just wanted to proceed with that. It does require the truth and tax hearing, which we've already advertised in the newspaper. We had to put it in the Oakland Press because the review did not publish a paper this past week. So we did comply with the state law by having it in the newspaper.
When you say maintain the tax rate, Joe, are you saying that we adopt the Headley 1.9% or forego it for this year?
Right now, it's that we would include it in there.
I would propose that we forego the Headley 1.9% this year, in addition to maintaining our tax base as is and allow only for natural growth through property sales, transfers, or new building.
Mm-hmm. And we presented at the last meeting as what the impact that would have.
Right.
And I think it was $36,000 difference in the revenue for the village.
Understand.
So that's something that, if that's what you want to do, we'll need to formally vote on that on next council meeting on May 11th.
I understand.
We can have it prepared either way, a motion either way.
So in your initial opening letter, which had a lot of information, there's two losses that are pointed out there. The water and sewer funds projected budget estimate for the current year 20 is a loss of $218,000, and 21 is a loss of $485,000. So that's going to draw down our fund balance from 2.9 million to 2.2, correct?
Over the period of time, yes.
Over 2 years.
Yes.
Right. So what's our plan going forward past that? Is it going to continue to draw down fund balance, or how do we write that?
Well, the last 4-year tax.
I don't mind taking away $36,000. It's not a lot of money. It's making a statement as well, but I'm not sure that I want to take it away.
Right. Well, that's why it'd be up for a vote as to what the majority of council would want to do. But I understand what you're saying, because you're right. Right now we don't know what the impact is because we're not out of where we're at. We don't know how far it's going to go. But we do have a water rate increase. The last one comes into effect this July. It's a 12% increase in the water rates and a 3.9% increase in sewer rates, which helps offset, obviously, the loss in revenue. But whether that's enough or not, that's yet to be determined, because we had a 4-year rate structure we approved in 2017. The council did. We had increases for all those 4 years, and more than it. The water rate, flow rate, more than it was 120% increase over that 4-year period in the flow rate. Now the other rates were 3% annually, so we've had a 12% increase across the board for water and sewer, and over 100% increase in the flow rate of water. But we've also incurred a significant amount of debt. Now, one thing, if we don't finance any more water main project, right now we borrowed $6 million, and the original plan was to borrow $8 million. So there's a savings on financially and positive impact by not borrowing that money, because then we don't have to pay the interest and the principal on that. So we'd have to reevaluate. And what I would propose we would do is reevaluate our rates and determine based on the debt service at the time and what, remember we buy the water through the township, and last July they raised it 14%, where we'd only projected that they'd raise it 3%. So we're waiting to see what impacts those have. But we'll do another rate study to determine if we need to raise rates or what impact that's going to have on our fund balance. Because those lead and line replacements can range from $3,000 to $10,000 depending on how much we have, and we estimate we have over 300 possible ones that we need to change over the next. You have up to 20 years to change them over, but besides the big sewer lift station issue, which is a bigger problem, if you're in the $3 to $5 million range is what we expect it's going to come in at. So we need to anticipate what reserves and what rates we're going to need to generate to finance those, and see if we're hoping that grant money or infrastructure money might come from the federal government on it, perhaps. But those are all things we're going to have to be evaluating this coming year.
And then also in that last SCADA, the approval of moving forward with the SCADA, yes. How did we fund that again?
We had a 5-year loan. Okay. We borrowed $300,000.
Yeah, 1.5%, I believe, wasn't it, Joe?
The current rate's 1.8.
1.8.
Okay, and we funded that loan how?
We
how
borrowed from the loan. I'm sorry?
How are we paying that loan again?
From the water and sewer revenues. In this case, it'd be we're taking on reserves because right now we don't have enough revenue to cover our cost. Because the bond payments just started this year. We made our first bond payment of $245,000 on that $6 million we borrowed. That first principal payment kicked in this year.
And that payment comes from water and sewer revenue, correct?
Oh, yes. Yeah. The user rate.
That's kind of the point. I think you made a point in your comments that I wanted to clarify. Water, sewer, lift stations, lead abatement, all of those are standalone issues. They're utility issues.
Correct.
They're based on use. And I believe there's things we can do, whether it's borrowing money from other entities at low interest rates. We can do SADs to homeowners. We can do all kinds of things. I think they're a standalone issue relative to property taxes. I think the Headley 1.9% is I think it's a bad year to do it. I think we need to talk about that separate from our utility discussions. That's all I would ask the council to do, is consider these as separate discussions and not lump in utility money with property tax general revenue discussion. I may be wrong, but that's my position on it.
And we've been doing the Headley 1.9 for how many years?
Well, it changes every year. It was 2.4% last year.
Right.
We've been doing Headley for how many years?
We've always levied the maximum amount. I mean, the same amount every year. It's always been the 13.1021. We've not reduced our tax rate. Okay. The one thing I did want to mention, just to clarify, though, that you know, Councilmember Hammond is correct in saying that it is a user rate fee payer issue, but in the past, the village has levied taxes for water and sewer. And the general fund can be used for any municipal purpose, which could include water and sewer.
I understand. I'm asking us to discuss them separately.
Right. No, I
understand. And we've also, you said we've levied the Headley increase annually. We've also had 10 pretty good years under our belt to do it recently. And this is not a good year, and it's not a normal circumstance.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And it's a couple $100 per home.
I was just thinking that about $250.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll be honest. I'm still working. It doesn't bother me. It's a couple $100. But we have a lot of people in our community that a couple $100 is going to get pretty hard to come by here soon. And even people that are going to, I made the point earlier in another forum about property taxes will be paid under duress for many people this year.
Right.
So, you know, while I'm fortunate to still be working, there are many in this community that are not. And that's a big deal. And I think it's symbolic, whether we use it for utilities or salaries or overtime or what have you. It's taxpayer money, and this is a difficult situation for everyone. And I think we need to make a statement that we've tightened our belt and we're crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and we're not spending other people's money capriciously. I get off my soapbox.
Or there was the other option I presented too about the Headley override. There's two issues with Headley. Remember, the voters approved an override for the police department 3 years ago. And that we're using the supplement to keep the tax rate at the 13.1021 total. So I just wanted to mention that. And that generates about $30,000. It goes strictly to police.
Well, I agree that use of utilities is different than taxation of your property. But I'm concerned about fund balance drawdown. And it's okay maybe for a year, but without a plan in place, make sure that we don't do a continuation. I get concerned. Okay, where do we go from here? Somebody want to make a motion about the Headley or what?
I make a motion that we forego the Headley increase this year.
The 1.9%?
The 1.9% Headley.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Hobbs,
Yes.
Matheson,
Yes.
Granville,
No.
Rutt,
Yes.
Van Poortvliet,
Yes.
Hammond.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1.
Okay. Joe, you've got some adjustments to make, correct?
Well, I'll present the resolution so it reflects that.
Okay. So we talked about DPW. We talked about police.
Right.
I can't read this printed material I got. It's so light, I can't even see it. I'm just saying. Sorry. Where do we want to go from here?
Well, I don't know if there's any administrative matters, the clerk and planning and the attorney and treasury and finance items. I mean, Susan and I are the only full-time employees on staff. I don't know if everybody's aware of that. So we are running I consider a very lean, mean machine on staff-wise.
Can I ask a question, Joe?
Please.
A functional question. If we have a shortfall from the county collection of property tax revenues this year, is our ability to retrieve our portion of planned revenues in jeopardy? Will we get what we're planning to get if there's a shortfall?
The county, our property taxes, the county buys the real property taxes, any delinquent taxes. It's usually around 20 to 30,000 or less. And so we get basically,
we're made whole.
Well, the only piece we don't get is if any personal property tax on equipment, businesses, if they don't pay those,
right,
we don't get reimbursed until the county does collect.
Okay.
The good news is this past year, the delinquent amount of personal property taxes was less than $300.
I understand the past history, and it's been,
we've done well.
So. I know. I have a concern that we're not going to do well in the future. No, for a year or two or more. I don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball.
And the county buys our receivables, the real property, because they go out and then assess liens against the property owner. So
sure,
as long as that mechanism's still in place, yes, we'll be made whole, because we don't budget 100% on our taxes.
Right.
We have a cushion in there just in case.
I just think we need to have a plan in our hip pocket for further tightening.
Oh, yes.
Should the situation call for it.
There will be that plan.
Okay.
And right now, we're not spending anything else we necessarily have to. And anything
I understand.
Out of line, we would ask council to confirm and approve.
Yep. Thank you.
So this concludes our meeting tonight. Mr. Young, anything else?
No, I did have an item just to let you know regarding a different matter altogether. The update, Frank Fontana just called me before the meeting to let us know that the water main project on Heights Road is moving back on track. We had a little issue with making the curve around the lake there, but they've got that face and they're ready to tomorrow to start pulling the last section of pipe from Bellevue to the store. And then they'll be testing and then a couple of days off for getting testing, and then they'll be looking to come back and start hook up the services. And today they did directional bore at Greens Park. That's piece of main there to the hydrant and to service the Greens Park. So that they bore that today, and it's not hooked up yet, but they'll be in tomorrow to help make that happen. So we're moving along well with that. Meanwhile, the other thing on the parks is that the parks are closed. There was a question about opening the park for fishing, and I was advised that no, the parks are. We have not opened up Greens Park. All the other parks we don't obviously are not locked, so they're not quote closed. But the playground equipment is all taped to be not used, and that's the county executive order was to not use the playground equipment. But the state order is the restrooms, for example, are not open at Greens Park, obviously, because the park is closed. So, I don't know if Harold, you want to add anything to that, but just in case that question comes up. And of course, the social distancing is still in place, and we're waiting to.
Wait, could you clarify that, Joe? Like why all of Greens Park is closed and not just the play structure and restroom?
Well, there was. I think the state, the governor closed all parks. So I guess the question
is local parks, because like state parks, county parks, metro parks are all open.
Right. Yeah, that's true. They are. So I guess the question is, do we want to let Greens Park be open, quote, or as the other parks are, which Meeks and Children's
Yeah, because from my understanding, the order is not to close parks; it's the play structures and the restrooms and things like that.
Right.
So, yeah, because I had a question about Greens Park the other day. So I drove by. I was like, why are we totally closing it? Since that's not. I mean, you could have had.
So I guess I'd be looking for direction from council. Do you have a problem if we open up Greens Park or not? Not the restrooms, like all the other parks are open, because normally Greens Park would be open.
Is dock secured?
from people to go on, I mean?
Right.
We could do that. So
Well,
that
you should secure it. Yeah.
we got people that want to go fishing.
Well, you don't want
Not
fishing.
allowed to fish off the dock
You know.
anyway.
No.
Well, they're not supposed to. That's true.
Right.
We
And
can-
really, you shouldn't be fishing down anywhere down there because kids run around with bare feet.
Yeah.
Should be no fishing at all.
Well, if you
I don't
open
think-
it, people are going to do certain things if you open it. You're going to have trash pickup, even if the restrooms are closed. So just bear that in mind. I'm okay with opening it, but we will have to pick up trash and police the area a little bit.
Yes.
Just that's human nature, I think.
We can
If
block
you
off.
open it,
We
if
can block
anybody's in a
off the
park.
dock so they can't go on it.
Right.
If anybody's in the park, more people will come. So I'm confused. I thought you started this conversation with saying all parks are closed and
Well,
so
the governor closed the state parks.
State parks are open.
Well, the restrooms are.
Not,
So we're saying park facilities are closed. Parks are not closed. Park facilities are closed.
just for walking only.
Right. Park
Camping-
land is
All the
not closed.
camping's closed. All the camping's closed.
Right.
I go out to Big Fish Lake State Park all the time and walk my dogs, but there's nobody there. There's no toll booth. The restrooms are closed, but I think the property is open.
Yes. State park properties are open. I mean, we go hiking all the time. Metro parks are open and they are still charging on weekends and some days of the week. So like they have, the sticker on the front and they're scanning it or they're wearing masks and gloves, but their restrooms are closed. County parks are open. Nature centers are closed. Restrooms are closed. So like facilities and amenities outside of like land usage are closed.
How can they take your money if the facilities are closed?
You know what I mean? Right.
What a bunch of crap.
Supply and demand.
They still have to pay to pick up the trash, Ray.
parks
Yeah.
are closed.
And they did, I've read that, was it Island Lake State Rec area? They reached capacity because they're monitoring capacity and they closed the park for a while. And I think Stony Creek on Sunday as well. We were there on Saturday and it wasn't terrible, but I guess Sunday they reached capacity and we're only letting people out as others or in when others were coming out.
Well, we could maybe look at having a capacity sign for Greens Park saying capacity limited to 4 people per 1,000 square feet or something.
Good luck actually enforcing that
If
because I don't think Harold wants to
I
take
know.
that on.
No, actually, if I could take it, between April and really Memorial Day, there's not that many people that are in there. I mean, Pete Peterson you'd go in there and sit in a chair and watch the sunrise or sunset. I hadn't opened it up unless somebody had asked, only because it's been nasty, being cold, and we had a couple of days that were nice. So I have no problems opening it up. I think pretty much it was the county that wanted all the playground equipment, closed. So, and we taped up that. So I have no issues opening up, and I don't think there'll be a police problem, to be honest with you.
What's the normal opening schedule of the park? That park open, there's a schedule for it to open. Is it May 15th, May 20th?
Open all year. It's open all year.
Well, I
Swimming
should say
starts.
staff.
Swimming
The lifeguards or the summer hours started on Memorial Day weekend.
We close it at night. It's locked at night, though.
Right.
Well, there'll be no swimming until the epidemic's over with.
Correct.
Right.
Well,
No bathing.
They get in the water. What are you going to do?
yeah, we're not. It says swim at your own risk.
Well,
Yeah.
you keep the dock closed off.
Yeah, we can do
Fence
that.
it off.
We'll fence it off.
You got your direction. Anything else?
All right. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor indicate with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Joe, are we going to do another meeting this week, or what is the deal here?
Not unless council wants to. The next scheduled meeting
We
is
have one,
Monday.
this is it?
Pardon?
We're just going to do this, and then we're going to adopt a budget on Monday?
If council's ready, we can do another.